Here's everything you might have missed in the House of the Dragon trailer. Wake up, Westeros, because we're heading back in time to an era before Starbucks cups, before water bottles, and before a deeply divisive final season with House of the Dragon. On Tuesday, HBO Max revealed the official first look at this series, which is both highly anticipated and highly dreaded in equal measure, depending on what taste the Game of Thrones finale left in your mouth. Much like Cersei Lannister, though, I try to look at my aquarium-sized wine goblet as being half full, so I'm cautiously optimistic after this first sneak peek. Now, as you may have guessed from the title, this series, which debuts in 2022, focuses on House Targaryen, the eponymous House of the Dragon. Co-created by George R.R. Martin and Ryan Condal, House of the Dragon takes place some 200 years before the events of Game of Thrones. Much like we saw with Daenerys, though, we're in for some inevitable family drama, scheming and skullduggery, and a bit of the old fire and blood. We're going to break down all the subtle details, hidden connections, and Easter eggs that you might have missed in just a moment. And as always, if you prefer to read all about it, Michael Walsh has you covered over on Nerdist.com. With that said, if you for some reason want to go into this knowing even less than Jon Snow, now's your chance to leave.
I don't know.
No one knows.
Okay, let's get into it, shall we? The trailer begins with the sweet strains of a brand new Ramin Djawadi song, because thankfully the critically acclaimed composer is returning to provide yet another iconic score for this Game of Thrones prequel series. We see Matt Smith's Prince Daemon Targaryen, the younger brother to King Viserys Targaryen, walking through the halls of what we believe to be Dragonstone. Now, as you may recall, Dragonstone was the castle built by the Targaryens in Blackwater Bay, which was later occupied in Game of Thrones by House Baratheon. As for Daemon, HBO Max previously described him as a peerless warrior and a dragon rider who possesses the true blood of the dragon. But it's said that whenever a Targaryen's born, the gods toss a coin in the air, and if it comes up tails, they're going to be even madder than most of the Game of Thrones fandom was after Season 8, which is very mad indeed.
It doesn't feel right.
We see Daemon standing on the beach at Dragonstone with Emma Darcy as his niece/wife, Rhaenyra Targaryen. And much like Jon Snow and Dany, they like to keep things in and out of the family. Rhaenyra is the firstborn daughter of King Viserys Targaryen, and he named her the heir to the throne. Of course, in classic A Song of Ice and Fire fashion, those plans didn't go quite as smoothly as intended. Her father remarried Alicent Hightower, who bore him even more children, thereby throwing Rhaenyra's claim to the Iron Throne into question and leading to an all-out Targaryen civil war known as the Dance of the Dragons. That conflict pit Rhaenyra's faction against her half-brother Aegon II and his mother Alicent Hightower's faction, the latter of whom we'll see later in this trailer. Now, chances are this season is going to culminate in the death of King Viserys, lighting the spark that will ignite the powder keg that becomes the Dance of the Dragons in later seasons. As Matt Smith's Prince Daemon begins to narrate the trailer, we see a shrine to Balerion the Black Dread, the massive dragon ridden by the legendary Aegon the Conqueror, which we first saw beneath the cellars of the Red Keep back in Season 7. It's in much better shape now because it hasn't been decaying for an extra 200 years. Next up, we get a brief shot of Rhys Ifans as Otto Hightower, the Hand of the King, and the father of Alicent Hightower, played by Olivia Cooke. According to HBO Max, as the Hand sees it, the greatest threat to the realm is the king's brother Daemon and his position as heir to the throne. So it sounds like he'll definitely be at odds with both Prince Daemon and, by the same token, Princess Rhaenyra as well. After that, we see Paddy Considine as King Viserys sitting on the Iron Throne with the ring of House Targaryen on his royal finger. He's holding the legendary Valyrian steel sword Blackfire, which was once wielded by Aegon the Conqueror. The sword was passed down from Targaryen king to Targaryen king, and this became a way to help legitimize one's claim to the throne, as we'll see happen during the eventual Dance of the Dragons. After that, we see what appears to be Millie Alcock as a younger version of Rhaenyra standing in front of the Iron Throne, hinting that we'll be seeing multiple timelines in this show. Now, this is followed by another shot of Daemon and the older Rhaenyra walking on the beaches of Dragonstone, presumably plotting how to secure the throne for themselves, which is really hammered home by the fire and blood narration. The next shot features a battle at a tournament between a Targaryen knight wielding a Valyrian steel sword and a mystery man wielding a Morning Star. Now, this is most likely the tournament for King Viserys' accession to the throne, and that's going to take place in the earlier timeline. The knight with the Targaryen shield is most likely Prince Daemon, and he's rocking a sweet-ass dragon-winged helm, and the Valyrian steel sword Dark Sister as depicted in The Rogue Prince and Fire and Blood. Now, if that's the case, that makes the man he's fighting Sir Criston Cole, who infamously defeated Daemon in this duel by knocking Dark Sister away with a Morning Star, which he's wielding here. Sir Criston goes on to become a member of the Kingsguard, a sworn protector of Rhaenyra, and a potential love interest for her before ultimately becoming a real pain in her and Daemon's ass during the Dance of the Dragons. After that, we see a shot of Steve Toussaint as Corlys Velaryon, aka the Sea Snake Hiss. The head of House Velaryon, he's a bannerman to House Targaryen, and based on his character description, he's already poised to be my favorite character on this whole damn show. The most famed nautical adventurer in the history of Westeros, Lord Corlys built his house into a powerful seat that's even richer than the Lannisters, and that claims the largest navy in the world. We see even more of House Velaryon in the next shot, and with Valyrian blood running through their Velaryon veins, they all have the signature white hair of that bloodline. To the left, we see Will Johnson as Vaemon Velaryon, the younger brother of Corlys. To Corlys' right, we see Theonate as young Laenor Velaryon, the son of Corlys and Rhaenys Targaryen, who goes on to become the first husband of Princess Rhaenyra. The older version of that character is going to be played by John McMillan. Moving to the right, we come to Eve Best as Princess Rhaenys Velaryon, the queen who was not a dragon rider and wife to Corlys Velaryon, who was passed over as heir to the throne in favor of her brother Viserys. To her right, we see Savannah Stein as the daughter of Corlys and Rhaenys, who goes on to marry Prince Daemon. And they are all arriving at a feast at King's Landing, presumably to celebrate the marriage of King Viserys to Alicent Hightower, given the multiple timelines that we're going to be juggling here. After that, we see a brief shot of Sonoya Mizuno as Lady Mysaria, the mistress of Daemon Targaryen, who also goes on to become his Mistress of Whispers as well, filling much the same role as Varys did on Game of Thrones. Next up, we see Alicent Hightower wearing her signature green dress. During a feast to celebrate her 5th wedding anniversary to King Viserys, she wore a green gown, while Princess Rhaenyra wore one of red and black, traditional Targaryen colors. And this led to people referencing the Queen's faction as the Greens and the Princess's faction as the Blacks, colors they would retain in the Civil War to come. Now, Alicent is holding a familiar weapon here, the Valyrian steel dagger that was used by the Cat's Paw during the assassination attempt on Bran Stark way at the beginning of Game of Thrones. And that event essentially kicked off the War of the Five Kings and threw all of Westeros into chaos. This dagger later made its way to Arya Stark's possession, and she used it to sneak attack the Night King for at least 46 worth of bonus damage. In the background, Alicent is flanked by members of the Kingsguard, including Graham McTavish as Sir Harold Westerling and Fabian Frankel as Sir Criston Cole. Next up, during a joust, we see the House Stark sigil on a shield. It's unclear which member of the Stark family this could be, but the house was led by Cregan Stark during this era, so it's safe to assume he'll make an appearance at some point. After that, we see what may or may not be the flayed man symbol of House Bolton, maybe the shield of House Velaryon, and a mysterious white shield featuring a red heart and a drop of blood that we can't quite identify. In the next shot, we see banners featuring a red archer on a green backdrop, the symbol of House Tarly of Horn Hill, where this tournament's taking place. There are also banners of a golden lion's head on a red background that looks similar to House Lannister, but probably isn't, and we also see a golden sunburst on a blue background that we can't quite identify. Alicent Hightower and Princess Rhaenyra look on as Sir Criston Cole unseats a member of House Tarly in the joust. Now, this could be a different tourney than the one we saw earlier, one meant to celebrate the 5th wedding anniversary of King Viserys and Queen Alicent, but alas, only time will tell. This one, though, is clearly being held at Horn Hill, the home of House Tarly, which would be a major change from the source material. After that, we see a battle between a bunch of young folks inside what appears to be King's Landing. At first, I thought the two with brown hair might be Dracarys and Joffrey Velaryon, the sons of Rhaenyra and Laenor, who are strongly rumored to have been secretly fathered by Rhaenyra's lover, Harwin Strong, who is brown of hair. It's kind of confusing, though, because the blonde dude on the right looks like he could have House Velaryon lineage as well, so maybe that's the younger version of Laenor, which that would completely upend our original theory about the others. So if you've cracked this code, please let us know in the comments below, because like Jaime Lannister in Season 3, I'm stumped. And finally, we see a shot of Rhaenyra approaching her father Viserys sitting atop a much more intimidating version of the Iron Throne. With many, many, many more swords, this is much closer to the version that appears in the books. And for the truest version of the Iron Throne, though, make sure you check out the illustration by Mark Simonetti in this 2013 post on George R.R. Martin's Not a Blog blog. Anyway, folks, there you have it. That's everything we spotted in the first look at HBO's House of the Dragon. And folks, it's been long enough that we're about ready to bend the knee once more, and we're keeping our fingers crossed that this series will ultimately have a more satisfying ending than the original.
It doesn't feel right.
In the meantime, we'll keep you up to date on all things House of the Dragon over on Nerdist.com, but first, tell us, what did you think of this trailer? Did you spot anything that we missed? And what other Game of Thrones spin-offs do you want to see?
I don't know.
No one knows.
Let us know in the comments below, and for the latest and greatest in the world of pop culture, stay tuned to Nerdist.com.